Now we are ready to start with this first presentation on global development assistance, and the first speaker will be Steve Coulson. I hand it over to you, Steve.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Yves-Louis. Let me just share the screen. And bring up the presentation. Does that transmit through okay?
Yes, very good.
Okay, good. Then let's start. And this is a joint presentation between myself and Christoph, and we will be giving you an introduction to a new activity starting in ESA, which is the Global Development Assistance Programme, or GDA. I'd like to give a little bit of background information on this, and then Christoph will go into the details about the activities in the programme. So I think everybody in the audience understands and realises we're really entering into a new era with the deployment and operations of Copernicus, which is a game changer, and we have a basis for operational monitoring of the Earth's environment for a whole range of parameters. And this is really changing the use of Earth observation in operations. And what we need to do, though, is put that data to work in addressing some of the grand societal challenges that we are facing today. And to do that, we need to make a whole range of changes, both visible, and actionable, so that we can actually take action, and we can do that on a whole series of geographic scales from local to global, and track a wide range of both environmental and social indicators. So those are the capabilities that we have today, and how does this relate to what we propose to do? Well, one track, of course, in looking at some of the major societal challenges is the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. We've recently completed, on the left-hand side of this slide, a very detailed, in-depth analysis of how Earth observation can contribute to the whole 231 indicators, as well as the targets and the goals. And that's publicly available, and there's a follow-on program of work that has probably been presented this morning in Future EO related to looking at the SDGs, monitoring and tracking. What we're doing in our neck of the woods is actually not the SDGs, but the development cooperation projects themselves. And we have a long history of looking at how Earth observation can help improve the development aid or development assistance activities in the developing countries. And this starts more or less about a decade ago with the first phase of some small-scale demonstrations. Many of the audience have probably been involved in these activities. That served to basically raise awareness in the development community about what could be done. We then followed on, and this is actually work still in progress, with some identifying several, 8 here, thematic areas which represent priority domains for the development community. And we did some very large-scale regional demonstrations of Earth observation, again within the framework of development cooperation programs and projects. There's a whole set of those activities, 4 of them coming to a completion in summer, and we have the last remaining contract in forest management, which will go to the end of 2023 and started in September of last year. So those are laying the basis, actually, for what we want to do in the future, which is to go to the next step now and basically try and integrate Earth observation into the operational working processes and financing of development. And this is what we call mainstream and transfer. The initiative is labelled as Space for International Development Assistance. It's being implemented in partnership with the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. And the ESA component of this is the program that we're coming on to describe to you, which is called Global Development Assistance. Now, just summarising that history, we've worked with people in the downstream service sector, I would say more than 100 companies and organisations, and they're spread across most of the ESA member states. And we've been focusing in terms of the development community very largely on the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank. We've had discussions with the Inter-American Development Bank and IFAD, and we had an initial experience some time ago with the European Investment Bank, and they are actually now coming back into the development business. So it's not only about providing the data, it's about providing the information. And to do that, of course, we work very much with the downstream service sector. Those are the major beneficiaries of the activities that I've been describing. And we believe that with the investments that have been made through both the ESA and the EC framework programs in that sector, it's actually in a world-leading position in terms of technical expertise and capability. And it has a very, very rich service portfolio. This is simply not about the data, it's about providing information that people in the development community can make decisions on. But it's not only about providing the information. A key component is actually putting the users in a position to handle that information and integrate it into their daily jobs. We have spent most of the resources, the ESA resources to date, working on the service production and delivery. In our ongoing activities, we have some very small limited resources for capacity building to work and train with users. But actually this needs to be scaled up on a much bigger level, and that's what we intend to do in the next phase of the work in partnership with World Bank and ADB. And that's where I would like to try and pass over to Christoph. And let me see if I can find if I can find Christoph.
You just need to hand me the presenter mode.
I need to find you.
I have done it for you.
Ah, okay, good. So over to Christoph, and I believe I'll stop sharing screen.
Okay, so I believe you should see my screen now.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so building on what Stephen was saying, we really would like to bring the efforts that we've started on the EU4SD and the precursor programs now to scale, and also transfer programmatic ownership to our counterparts, to our partners like the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank, to move a little bit beyond ESA just being the push factor here. So how do we do this? How do we actually go towards mainstreaming? Eventually, we list our 5 A's as kind of the hurdles that we need to overcome or that we need to address to really achieve a mainstreaming. In a sense, availability and accessibility of data, of information products are really being addressed by Copernicus. So the last, let's say, 5 years, 5+ years have been a real game changer on that front for the development community. So in terms of addressing awareness, acceptance, and adoption, we could argue that in the early days of this collaboration that we've set up with development banks and which Stephen has outlined, we focused a lot on awareness raising, especially with these demonstration projects early on. And we developed new products, new information products, and its service delivery to our IFI partners. Most recently, and still ongoing in the EU4SD, we've gone a step beyond the information product delivery and knowledge development, and we've done some capacity building to raise the acceptance level of these types of services in the banks. And now with Space for IDA, of which GDA is the ESA component, we want to go even a step further to really aim at a long-term sustainability and achieve a full adoption of these types of techniques, of mechanisms by the banks and the bank client countries. So that includes the skills transfer entity. So basically, Space for IDA would do the whole thing and transfer programmatic ownership in doing so to the banks. So a brief scheme or framework of how Space for IDA is actually structured. So first of all, we had to investigate whether the use of development finance for space applications is actually ODA compliant. So ODA, standing for Official Development Assistance, is what basically all developed countries have committed to in a UN context. They commit to spending about 0.7% of their GDP annually on official development assistance, but there are clear regulations on what actually counts as official development assistance. And since summer 2018, the initiative Space for IDA is actually accredited by the OECD, who is the authority for that, as ODA compliant. So that opened up basically the game to also use not only space budget, but also development budget to fund such activities. So Space for IDA now is structured in two components, if you will. One component being implemented and financed through ESA, so basically through our member states, traditional space budget, so that's GDA. And then the other component is being implemented and financed through development finance resources, or ODA resources. So you see those two here listed side to side, and they operate under a jointly agreed work program. So the space component being implemented by ESA and the development component being implemented by World Bank and ADB. So both of those banks are setting up a dedicated program and mechanism to actually finance those types of activities that include dedicated trust funds, but also mainstreaming and operational resources and programmatic influence on other funding mechanisms. So there's a clear task distinction whereby ESA focuses under the GDA program on the development of new knowledge, so pre-operational technical developments, and the banks will dedicate their resources on capacity building and skills transfer. And if this is done in the right way, then we can move towards that path towards adoption for making this a new normal in the day-to-day business of the banks. So, as you know, GDA has been funded by our member states at Space 19 Plus Ministerial. And the other component, there is mobilization of resources ongoing. And we have so far collected, if you will, commitments from different resource sources in the banks for more than $30 million by now. From a variety of programs, that some of which you have listed here. So those commitments will be used in complementary manner to GDA technical developments. So where do we stand with Space for IDA? We have a concept note produced that is tailored to address the national development priorities of member states that participate in GDA, and also these development priorities of those development agencies. We have promotional material, a video that includes vice presidents of both World Bank and ADB, as well as ESA high-level management. We have produced a report on the adoption and impact of Earth observation to address the Sustainable Development Agenda. And we are now planning to organize, or I should actually say our IFI partners, World Bank and ADB, are organizing a donor-oriented knowledge event in April-May timeframe, where further the aim is to raise further resources in support of this joint initiative. On ESA side, so what is industry expecting here? We have a very ambitious work program and schedule of ITTs to be released over the course of the first year. And you see them listed here. So we have a main activity line under GDA to develop new thematic Earth observation information products. We call this activity line Agile EO Information Development. And we have 8 ITTs planned to address that, 8 thematic areas with 1.5 million contracts, 1.5 years each. And they will be spread out over the course of calendar year 2021, 2 ITTs each quarter. The disaster resilience ITT has been published, is still open, urban sustainability to follow shortly. And then the others, as I said, at a quarterly basis, 2 each. We also plan, in support of these activities, to have a number of other contracts issued and support activities, including a knowledge hub, an analytics platform, but also a dedicated contract on monitoring and evaluation of both the GDA impact and the broader initiatives, Space for IDA impact, as well as a communication package. Focusing a little bit on the Agile EO information development activities, which are now really kicking off. So each thematic sector implements 3 iterative 6-month agile development cycles. So that adds up to the 1.5-year contracts that I mentioned. And these address directly information requirements as collected within World Bank and Asian Development Bank. I already mentioned we will have a steady stream of ITTs being issued 2 per quarter throughout 2021, which should provide industry a stable basis for planning also. So while I mentioned the component of the banks in terms of the development finance, I mentioned dedicated new trust funds being set up, and there's fundraising ongoing for that, and this will still continue throughout 2021. We have already secured existing development finance from other programs and initiatives for more than $30 million as of early this year. And these resources are dedicated to complement GDA technical developments through associated capacity building activities. But it's important to understand that the procurements will be handled by the respective institutions. So GDA obviously is procured through ESA, and those capacity building activities will be procured through the banks. But there's a jointly agreed work program. So there's a constant exchange and coordination on what is being done. So the use of existing development finance, or we call it now kind of a holistic approach to development finance, is expected to grow further, not just in the first half, but actually throughout the lifetime of the project, of the program most likely. And this is really considered to be a major important pillar also to ensure long-term sustainability. And we will continue these discussions with the respective teams in both World Bank and ADB. The overall logic, of course, of the program is on the one hand to promote the European Earth observation capabilities, which are world leading, specifically in the context of Copernicus, the national missions, and the downstream value adding service sector. And we aim at positioning them for dedicated bank activities and procurements in the longer term. So we kind of try to open up a market, grow the segment in the banks, and for Europe to be positioned in the best possible way. I already mentioned the procurement rules obviously follow, procurements obviously follow the bank's procurement rules, and there will be a global competitive approach. But in any case, given that there is a close link to the GDA technical developments under the Space for IDA initiative, obviously there is if you will, competitive advantage to be expected for European entities. But we as ESA are not there to kind of aim at influencing that. It will come through the course of the program. Agreements are in place between ESA and the bank's program managers for the activities that are expected to be carried out. So we have a number of cooperation agreements with different programs, which give us a good idea of what we will do probably over the next couple of years and what the banks will do over the next couple of years. And currently, the approach that we follow is that we notify ERSC in case World Bank and ADB opportunities are released for procurements related to Earth observation services that the bank requests. So with that, I guess I end with a quote that takes us hopefully to the mindset of achieving full adoption and mainstreaming of Earth observation development assistance. This is a quote by Jürgen Vögele, the current Vice President on Sustainable Development at the World Bank, who is, by the way, a very firm supporter of this initiative. So he's saying all of us have always been fascinated by the potential that this technology gives us in the development space. Now it has gone beyond the fascination, and now we are entering a stage where we can actually turn the beautiful images into real management decisions. So if we talk about mainstreaming, that's what we want to achieve. We want to actually influence policymaking, influence this being a new normal in how the banks operate. So I leave it with this. Thanks a lot. And yeah, we look forward to working with the industry to making this happen.
Okay. So Steve, you can take it from there for the question and answer session. You have 10 minutes.
Sure. If I could just add a comment, by the way, all of this would never have been achieved without having resident experts in the World Bank HQ and in ADB HQ. Christoph has spent the last 4 years in World Bank nurturing that relationship. Paolo is our man in Manila, and he's doing a fantastic job engaging with ADB. Christoph is now joined us in Esrin as of September as the GDA program manager, and we will be releasing soon a job opportunity to replace Christoph in World Bank. But the resident presence in the bank HQs is absolutely key to taking this whole program forward, and we intend to maintain that and make sure that the activities we start in GDA are fully linked and coupled with the bank programs and projects that we've identified. So I don't see any particular queries in the chat box.
So there's one thing that has come up here in the chat box, which might indeed be worth mentioning. Actually, if we want to list the member states that have participated in GDA and hence are eligible for bidding for GDA ITTs, so it's 13 member states. I hope I can now by heart mention all of them. So we have Germany, Spain, Italy, UK, Belgium, Austria, Czech Republic, Luxembourg, Finland, Portugal, Romania, and Stephen, help me out. I guess I have a few missing. They are listed in the ITT, but there is 13 member states.
Sorry, I was on mute. Did you list Austria?
Austria, I did. How can I miss Austria? Oh, Switzerland. I missed Switzerland. And Ireland, I guess I haven't mentioned.
Ireland, correct.
So I think I have all the 13 now listed.
Again, just to add a comment, the original plan was to get some dedicated financing from the development side in place, fresh financing, last year. But of course, COVID has turned the development world completely upside down, more than we realize, actually. We're still building and launching satellites, but the development community, top priority is for them to recover from the COVID pandemic. So that put the brakes a little bit on the discussions that the banks had planned with donors. That's now coming back on track with the event in April. But the consequence was we couldn't get started on the GDA activities planned in 2020 because our member states insisted, quite rightly, that we needed development financing to go hand in hand with ESA financing, such that any investments we make in GDA on the developments are actually picked up and used and paid for by the banks in their operations. So that took a little bit of time to sort out in 2020, and we're trying to catch up now in 2021. And our vision really is to start the activities. The main line is those thematic sectors, and it's no surprise that many of them are similar to the EO for SD thematic sectors, and we're actually taking benefit of the experiences in those. And we will need some first showcase results from GDA by the end of mid-2022, so that we can go to the next ministerial. We will not be making a new program proposal, but we may well have, if we can get some good results on the table, we may well have interest from a whole range of other countries wishing to join the program.
Steve, Christophe, there is a question for you on the chat.
Yeah, so I can read this out. Will the topics requirements for the 3 cycles already known at the time of the call, or will they come out during the project? No, we have, what we have is for each thematic sector, so for disaster, and we're currently now finalizing for urban, we have in the ITT a technical annex that is quite detailed. It lists the types of technical EO product and information developments to be done. And it also lists, and those are actually, they range from about 10 to 15 types of different information. And the annex also lists about 5 to 6, 7, what we call use cases, which is scenarios for the bank use of those developments that we need to work in to test the developments that are being done. So each ITT has a quite detailed technical annex in terms of the developments to be done and the testing to be carried out.
There's another question saying, do you have any examples of how this is benefiting people on the ground and results you can share? So obviously not yet from GDA, but we have a whole range of examples, from projects and support activities carried out under EU4SD over the last couple of years. And plenty of examples to share. Also in terms of impact, I guess I mentioned on one of the slides, we have a dedicated report that illustrates the potential benefits and impact of satellite EO on development. So indeed, we have a lot of examples to share, and obviously happy to forward these again. Another question, is it here? One question: in each thematic area, 8 in total, 3 agile development cycles should be conducted, meaning that 3 IFI use cases are addressed. So I guess Stephen already kind of addressed that question. So obviously we expect more use cases to be expected. The 3 agile development cycles are referring to, quick prototyping, iterating on it, and getting to a pre. Another question, will you open specific calls on the capacity building component in the Global South? So just to be clear again, under GDA, we will not have dedicated calls on capacity building, because the whole concept of space for IDA means that capacity building and skills transfer should be financed through bank procurements. Obviously, we will liaise and associate the activities with each other, but we don't intend to issue a call for capacity building under GDA. While I scroll through the chat, Stephen, if you want to add anything, anytime, go ahead.
Yes, there's a query from Nino. What does success look like for this program? E.g., better EO-derived income, more integration with models, more integration with end users, larger areas. Success, is that the banks actually build this into their operational practices in terms of defining new activities together with their what are called client states, their countries. So we need this type of environmental information just being routinely planned in to the planning, implementation, monitoring and financing of development projects carried out by World Bank and ADB. And we're going down that road. I mean, we actually have in the background, we have a consultant doing a regular monthly analysis of all references to Earth observation in many of the World Bank and ADB programs and projects. And believe me, it's beginning to take off. This type of information is being used more and more. And basically, we want to get rid of the program. Eventually, we want the World Bank and ADB to just take this over and use this routinely in their operations.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I think we should hand it over now to the next presentation. I think we will collect the additional question we could not cover, and we can answer offline. I would propose we answer offline. So, Christophe, can you?
Thanks, Yves-Louis.
Thank you.
Can you hand over the presenter role to Amanda?
Have it now, Amanda.
Okay, super. I'll share my screen. Okay, do you see my presentation?
Yes, we see the presentation.
Okay.
Not in full mode yet, but it's coming.
Okay.
Perfect.
You see it there? Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
excellent.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Amanda Regan. I'm the Investing in Industrial Innovation, or InCubed Program Manager. And I'm also the head of the Invest office in the FILAB, usually based in Isotta in Italy. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of what InCubed is and where we see it going. So we're seeing an absolute perfect storm in Earth observation at the moment, with a lot of really crazy, unprecedented things crashing into the sector that really hasn't happened before. We've got Copernicus providing long-term systematic data sets, which are really providing a solid basis for businesses to start building business cases on. We're actually seeing the performance per cubic meter of satellites exploding. So you're able to do so much more than you were even able to do 10 years ago. And also developments in ICT as well, things like cloud computing, also artificial intelligence. This kind of thing is literally crashing into Earth observation. So we're no longer thinking of individual satellites in terms of Earth observation. There's really a multiplier effect. Also, the fact of distributed systems over centralized systems is another really interesting paradigm shift that we've been seeing from around, I'm personally from about 2012. And this is really bringing in new players and a much broader customer base than ever before. And these people are bringing in new investment, new money, new ways of thinking, new business models. And so there is really a kind of connected thinking, a new entrepreneurial spirit within Earth observation that we're very much seeing. And this is why we're wanting to really leverage this in terms of InCubed. So what we're seeing is actually Earth observation is moving away from the provision of images and data to actually intelligent decision making, and even to the point of commoditized intelligence, both business intelligence and scientific intelligence. And from my own personal point of view, I think even the word Earth observation is becoming too passive, and we're going to have to change our vocabulary to maybe Earth intelligence or Earth analytics. So with that in mind, we actually have something called the Phi Lab, which was opened at the very end of 2017. And the Phi Lab offers is set up with two offices. We have the Explore office, which on one side really focus on research and development of disruptive technologies in Earth observation. So we're looking at really connecting the EO sensor revolution with the digital revolution. So they're focused on artificial intelligence, blockchain disruptive systems, things like AI for EO, and also digital twin Earth as well. And then on the other side of the lab, and this is what my office looks after, we're really trying to stimulate and develop the commercial sector based on Earth observation and Earth observation products and services. And we're doing this by the Incubed program and also by additional investment actions. So in the Explore office, they're really looking at this kind of thing. So artificial intelligence, augmented analytics, digital twins, trying to build use cases and prototypes to be able to really move the needle in terms of innovation for disruptive EO technologies. And we have a kind of a pathway that runs through the lab. So on the left-hand side, we're looking at exploration and discovery in terms of use cases, etc., and prototypes. And then there's a period of development, and then moving towards the right, you move into the invest office territory, which is much more commercially focused. And if you want to work with us, by the way, there's a number of different ways. We have different fellowships that you can come and talk to us about. If you're a company, you want to spend some time in the lab, or if you're a scientist or a researcher, we have different ways to be able to work with people, because we want to have a constant stream of people. We can't be really pushing for distributed systems and disruptive technologies whilst being a static group of people. So in terms of Incubed, what is Incubed? Well, if you've got a commercially focused EO-based product or service, and if it's innovative and you actually have commercial customers already engaged or already in mind, then Incubed is really a de-risking tool. So it should already be on your commercial roadmap, if you like, and then Incubed can actually help you with that. We provide obviously financial support. We help to co-fund, so we don't fund 100%, but we co-fund because we expect you to generate revenue at the end of this activity. And what Incubed is really aiming to do is to develop your concept up until minimum viable product, so you can take it to potential customers and also potential investors as well. So for example, if I take a satellite example, Incubed can help co-fund the first satellite, and then you go to investors to scale up the constellation. And this also happens in the downstream sector as well. So this is a little bit more information. So Incubed is it's co-funded, as I've said. It's subscribed by 18 member states, and I have a slide with the countries. We have a total of just under 100 million in our portfolio, and we're really looking for three main things. We're looking for commercial viability. Incubed is not a technology development program. It's really trying to get something commercially viable. Number two, you have to be doing something new, and also commercial customer engagement. And this is really at proposal stage. So we expect you to have beta testers or validators, some type of interaction. We have a really wide scope. So we have activities in our portfolio ranging from satellites down to ground segments and web platforms, everything in between. And I've got some examples at the end of my presentation. And as I said, our aim is to de-risk your development. We're really wanting to stimulate and develop the commercial EO landscape. And what we're trying to do is bridge that gap between development and being able to put something on a table to show a customer or an investor. Typically, most countries go for a 50-50 split in terms of co-funding, and we do have special agreements for SMEs, which are up to 80%, and this depends on the member state in which you're applying. At the moment, and in fact this number is out of date now, our present portfolio is about 42 activities, and they range from small activities of around 70,000 euros up to nearly 9 million euros, which is a satellite development. And we're getting about 1 or 2 proposals per week at the moment. So what do we offer? We offer zero equity co-funding, personalized guidance. We really take each submission and work out how best to help. You're able to use the ESA logo on your websites and also access the facilities and expertise of the Phi Lab in terms of AI, machine learning, etc. We're also connecting with private investors, trying to strengthen the Incubed pipeline, and we have a number of events and activities with private investors, and we're building up also an Incubed community as a part of the Phi Lab community. We have 2 types of development cycles. So if there is a commercial development, maybe the business case is not quite closed, or if there is you need some more time looking at trying to engage customers, etc. We offer a de-risking cycle, which starts at around technology readiness 4, more or less. And this goes up to about technology readiness, I would say 5 or 6. And then the product development cycle, this goes up to 7. So at the end of the product development cycle, we expect you to have a demonstrator to be able to show what, as I say, to show a customer or an investor your particular commercial product or service. And what we can do as well in Incubed is you can come in at the de-risking cycle and then move to the product development cycle, or some proposals go straight into product development. It really, we do it on a case-by-case basis, depending on the maturity. And you can see here some of the funding options and the different conditions, which I won't go into, but I'm sure that these slides will be available. And everything is on Emits, but what I would suggest is the first thing to do is actually go to ideas.esa.int. This is where we have our pre-steps, I guess our runway towards Incubed. And you follow the Investing in Industrial Innovation, the Incubed channel on ideas.esa.int. And you see there that we have our first step is called an idea pitch, which I'll talk about a little bit in a second. The other thing as well is that we have an Incubed website, and you can find all the details there, including all of the templates for submission, all of the data packs, etc., including an Incubed video as well. It does have volume, but you have to find the button to make sure that you get the sound on the website. So how to apply? So Incubed is really a partnership between industry, the national delegations, and us at ESA. Because there is no ESA statement of work, it means that ESA is not the end customer. There are no ESA acceptance reviews. If you want acceptance reviews for Incubed, then we ask your customers whether they accept it or not. We are not a commercial customer in the traditional sense. So our first, the first pre-step, if you like, is called an idea pitch. You submit your information on the idea pitch template on the ideas.esa.int platform, and usually within a few days you'll get a call inviting you to a video meeting where you'll see an Incubed panel, and we'll ask you to give a 15-minute pitch of what you have in mind and to see whether it's a good fit for Incubed. If it is, one thing I should also mention, usually at the idea pitch, we also invite the national delegations as well, so they know what's going on. And if all is well, we invite you to fill in the part 1 outline proposal template, which you can just go in and fill out all the parts. We then make sure that that's going in a good direction. If it is, then we can go to part 2. It's one big proposal, so it's just you're not filling in anything new. This is just one proposal split into 2. You have to get a letter of support from your national delegation, and then this gets submitted to ESA STAR, and we have a tender evaluation board, which is a formal step in an ESA evaluation. We go to negotiation to figure out if there's any last things to check, and then we go to contract signature. And we try and get this process as fast as possible, and we're also very interactive with companies, particularly up until the proposal part 2 stage, when our contractual colleagues get involved. We're really quite hands-on, helping companies to be able to shape the best proposal that they can. So these are the member states. We have 2 blocks of InCubed, the original program, which is InCubed, and then the follow-on, which was published last summer. And in total, we have 18 countries that are subscribed to the overall, what we call InCubed element. And I just thought I would spend 1 or 2 minutes giving you some examples of some of the activities that we already have. So the first activity, which is now finished, is called EO Plugin. This was basically a web platform for the agro-food industry, and they liked this idea so much that they spun out a dedicated startup. It's an Austrian-Dutch activity, and they were looking at maximizing the yield of potatoes. To the right, an activity run by GeoPartner. This is a Danish activity, and they're using INSAR ground motion data products and particular models for utilities, for utility companies, and various other infrastructure projects. We have HyperScout, InCube's co-funded HyperScout, which flew this autumn on in FESAT-1, and also Mantis. This is a satellite being developed by Open Cosmos, which is looking at serving the energy sector. Couple more examples. We have an Irish example here called Coastio. And they've been developing these yellow buoys that sit in the ocean, and they're used as a part of a validated water quality commercial service. And they're also used in conjunction with satellite data. To the right, we have a Dutch activity called AI Data Enhancement, and they're actually using AI techniques to improve Earth observation data, such as improving the spatial resolution, color distortion, etc. At the bottom, we have another Irish activity called Alfresco, and they're looking at using or developing an optical modem for an overall optical infrastructure, particularly focused on Earth observation satellites. And then finally, SatFrio, InCubed is co-funding I think 7 critical elements of this small satellite development, ranging from the detector and the payload down to the data platform. And then finally, we have a Swedish development called the Space Cloud, being developed by Unibap. And this is really looking at developing a mesh network and an app deployment for AI and Internet of Things capability. Impulsion, they're actually using InCubed to qualify their micro and nano electric propulsion thrusters, so that they can actually have a full qualification campaign. And then GMV, typically in a normal mission, you have mission planning as part of the function of the overall mission architecture. And what GMV is proposing is to have this function outsourced. And so the mission planning and operations part of a mission would be outsourced to various satellite operators. And then finally, a Dutch activity called Sat for Flood, which actually concluded last week, is looking at developing, or has developed a platform to globally visualize levee failure risk using different kinds of optical and synthetic aperture radar data. So it really is an end-to-end program that can really fund anything from space all the way down, as long as it's commercially focused. One thing that I want to also add, we have an activity called AI Express, and this is being led by Planetech, supported by D-Orbit and ICO, all in Italy. And they have a customer and stakeholders workshop on the 24th of March. They're developing basically a computing platform and an overall architecture to provide in-orbit services together with AI and deep learning functionality. And so if you're interested in running your app in space, then there may be an opportunity to get your capabilities on board, because this is not just a satellite, this is an overall end-to-end service, and something that I think is really quite innovative. So if you're interested, then just drop them a line. So I would like to finish on this point with this. I've already presented this again. So is InCube right for me? We're looking for three things: commercial viability, innovation, and also customer engagement. And that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Yves-Louis.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. It's a nice transition to the question and answer session. I think you have already some question in the chat.
Okay, I haven't been looking at the chat, so let me just stop sharing. Okay.
Can you see them?
Yeah, I'm just looking now.
So the first is from Geertz Ozolins.
Okay, I'm just looking for the first one. Okay, from Geertz. Is project's idea in free space optical communication is applicable in terms of InCubed? So the whole point of InCubed is that it has to be Earth observation focused. So we have, I would say, one activity for optical communication already in our portfolio and another one that we're evaluating right now. But both of them are very much focused on Earth observation satellites. We also involve our colleagues in telecoms, actually. So we're kind of flexible in that way. So my answer would be yes, if it has a very strong Earth observation focus. Okay. Okay, so what countries can extend to 80% for SMEs? So typically, off the top of my head, I know that, for example, Ireland, the Netherlands, I think Finland as well, they insist on 50-50. The other member states, it's on a case-by-case basis. But I would double check with your national delegation. I think we also have it on our website as well. Okay. All right. Just trying to find the top of them. Of the questions. So the InCube funds, are they dependent of the subscribing countries? Yes, they are. So for example, if Germany put money in, that money is allocated to German companies so that they get return on investment. So if we've had the case in the past, for example, that a company from one member state wants to work with another, and there is no ESA funding, or there is not ESA funding, no InCubed funding, and they've managed to work out a self-funding scenario, but it's really on a case by case. So typically, though, as I say, German companies use German money, British companies use British money, Luxembourg companies use Luxembourg money. So it's very much like this. But we have got some examples of non-ESA, non-InCubed companies being partners, but they just can't use InCubed money. That's happened quite a few times. Okay. Yes, and so it means that the activities it does depend on the member state, but we also encourage international cooperation. So, for example, Portugal are using their Portuguese contribution to develop an Atlantic monitoring constellation, and they're wanting to really encourage international cooperation. So, where we have contributions at the moment for not just Portugal but other countries, and that will be going into a second stage probably next year. So yes, it does depend on the country. Are there any parts of InCubed accessible to the UK? So so the UK they have subscribed, and at the moment they have basically exhausted their funding. And so the nice thing about InCubed is that the national delegation can top up their contribution at any time. So I would maybe have a chat with your national delegation. But yes, in principle, the UK participants are eligible. It's just that we have very little money left in the UK pot. Yeah, so if the ESO delegation has not registered for InCubed program, can we still participate? As I've said before, we're all about partnerships in InCubed, and we're wanting to develop and stimulate the commercial EO sector. So it's something that we're always willing to discuss. But obviously, if there's a country that wants to participate, we can't use other countries' money to fund companies from that other country. Poland is not a member of InCubed yet, but I'm working on them. So someone just said, what about Polish participants? Okay. Is InCubed exclusively targeted at commercial applications led by SMEs industry or by academics? So we're looking at stimulating and developing the commercial EO sector. So we are looking not just at SMEs, also mid-cap companies, large companies. We've had some interest from the big aerospace companies. And we also have universities and academics involved, but they don't typically lead these activities because we're looking for a commercial outcome at the end of this. We've had a couple of possibilities of universities spinning out companies afterwards, but this is something that yes, we are targeted at commercial applications. What is the main differences between InCubed and the ESA business applications program? On the surface, they seem very similar. Yes, so we work really closely with the business applications or BAS people. There is a little bit of overlap in the sense that InCubed covers the entire value chain. So we're looking at developing satellites all the way down to the actual the product at the end of this value chain. BAS, they focus very much on the downstream part of from around technology readiness 7, I think, or so, and the commercialization part of that. So there are some overlaps. What we've done in the past with Incubed is that some companies have applied to both programs, and for the idea pitch for Incubed, for example, we've actually invited the business applications guys to our idea pitch, and then we decide internally where we can best help and support the activities. So we actually work really closely with them, and we realize that there's some areas of grey that we really you don't really need to worry about, because we talk so often, and we actually have visibility of each other's programs that we work together. Can you give some examples of commercial successes which have already happened? So Incubed has only really been going for 2 years, and we've just in the last 3 or 4 months had, I think we've got 3 activities that have now finished, and they're starting to be commercial. So it's a little bit early to say successes in a tangible sense. But what we do with Incubed is we keep hold of our Incubed alumni. We keep track of them, and we ask them to report back on a yearly basis in terms of what's happening with them, their break-even analysis, their projections, etc. So maybe in a year's time, I would be able to present something on actual commercial successes in a tangible sense. Do I have time for more, or I see that it's already...
I think I can give you a bit of extra time. If you pick up,
Okay.
repeat the question, because some auditors, they complain they could not see the questions. Just repeat the question.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, what are the eligible member states for Incubed program? Maybe I can share my screen again and I can show you. So these are the eligible. These are the countries that have subscribed to Incubed. Can you see that, Louis?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. I see it.
And the PEX countries, I don't remember the PEX countries off the top of my head, I have to say. So basically, if they're not on that list, we can't fund them, but we can we can work with you in partnership, but you can't use Incubed money. So we very much want new member states to come and join the Incubed family. So the next ministerial, which will be in 2022, we would like new member states to join us as well. What is the main difference between Incubed and future EO program? Well, I would say that Incubed is co-funded, and it's also exclusively focused on a commercial outcome. And future EO is very much about building your expertise and technologies. I don't know, Louis, you can probably provide a bit better answer on that one.
Yeah, I invite you to watch the presentation we made this morning. I think we can conclude there if you want, Amanda. We will collect all the questions in any case.
Yep.
And I can just announce that we are currently uploading the file of this morning, so it's going very quickly, and you will find the links through the EO for Society website. Yeah. Yes, at the end of the day. So it's in the making. So the video is ready and it's being uploaded, and we'll work on the one of the just happening now. So thanks, Amanda, for that. I would like also to thank Stefan and Christophe for their presentation before you. So we can really conclude shortly this EOInfo Day, and just a reminder on this confirmation for and booking for the B2B meeting starting tomorrow for all the programs and elements of program which have been presented to you today. I would like to not to forget to thank Len for our work, Len Fletcher from the ESA video conferencing, because it worked really smoothly from our hand. I have to give thanks also to Valeria from the conference bureau, the ESA conference bureau, and again thanks to Sabrina, Irene, and Ula who helped, and also Doris. Last word for Doris. We had to prepare this event for the all the programs we presented to you. So wish you a good afternoon to all, and looking forward to talk to most of you through this bilateral meetings and in the following weeks. Have a good afternoon. Bye bye.